Hi everybody! So, this video is going to be very special. I've been learning Kabbalah lessons lately, and I want to express some of the things that I've learned about God, creation, about things that I thought I understood, but I didn't really understand. And now that I do understand, you know, I'm talking to Ray in 2 years from now that is looking back at me and saying, "Ah, you don't know shit, now I know everything that I need to know." So, it's very interesting. I just have to say that. It's a philosophical discussion about creation, God, and ourself. So, stay tuned. You know, the word God, I just have to take a minute to say that I'm going to use the word God instead of usually I use creation or oneness, but I do want in this specific video to use God. Now, I want you guys to put aside everything that you thought about God from Christianity or Judaism or Allah in Islam. I want you to just not think about that aunt that always says God or the Jehovah's Witnesses that come to your door and say the word God. I don't want you to think about the biblical God that everybody talks about. But as a nihilist, you probably understand that there is something out there that is bigger than we are in some way. And there is a whole spectrum of experiences that it experiences that we as tiny little humans don't really understand because we don't have the higher point of perception. For that, I just need you to use the word God. I want you to become aware that I'm just using it for this video or for a few videos here, but I want you to move that, how would I say that, the judgment that we have that comes with that, the heaviness that comes with that, the Sunday in church I was forced to go to type of, emotions that we have attached with that. Put all those aside. Now, this discussion begins with the rabbi that said, in the East, what they do in a meditation is they pray to I am. In other words, we are trying to get to that realization of I am, I am, I am. It is not a mental capacity. It's not just the words I am. It is a sensation of beingness. Beingness that is only in the present. Beingness that is completely non-dual. For duality, look at my second video in the Ascension video series if you don't understand what a dual expression is and what moving from an ego-based society to a spirit-based society is. So when you say I am, you get into a certain level. And it's true, because I've been meditating for 10 years and I've been teaching it in workshops. And I think that I am is very much focused on the individual, the person itself, us. And he said, they meditate on I am, we meditate on he is. In Hebrew, there's a distinction between female and male, so God is in male. I don't want to say it, because that kind of, it doesn't give it the right respect. So I can say, they meditate on she is, or he is. And I was like, what does that mean? I meditate on I am, yes, but when I meditate on they are, or he is, I'm actually changing something in my mind. I'm coming to a balance point between being a grain of sand. In other words, I don't really exist, or I'm just one tiny cell in God's body. And imagine the perspective of the whole entire, you can say, operation, creation itself. Imagine that you are a heart cell in God's body. Now, this heart cell has a job. It's a heart cell. It's not awakened to the fact that it's a heart cell. It's aware that there are other heart cells around, but it doesn't know and it cannot perceive and understand how the whole body functions because it's just a heart cell. Now, we are trying to think that we know where we are heading, but the body is heading in a certain direction, and the body is the one that dictates what the heart cells are going to experience in this lifetime. So it's so easy for us to try and understand, how hard it is for us to create that story, the expectations, the negative human emotion of why, the traumas, the why did it happen to me. And when you become a heart cell in God's body, in the experience of God, you suddenly understand that everything is already pre-planned for you. And all you do is serve the greater awareness that is the body of God itself. Now, I know this is a little bit harder to understand sometimes, so I'm just going to try to repeat it using a little bit of different words. So again, you are the heart cell. The heart cell has a job. For that, if we're looking at it for your individual perspective, your job is to be who you are. To be who you are naturally, to be who you are without resistances, not to try to serve other people by being what they think you should actually be. And I'm talking about society's rules, and I'm talking about parental expectations, or being someone you are not to your spouse, being true to your heart. That means being the heart cell in God's body. When you are true to yourself, you also understand that the heart needs to go through some stuff. Sometimes the heart has a disease. And in this point, I can also tell you that it takes a single cell to start cancer. One bad, negatively oriented cell that just spreads. And in this body, God's body, let's call it humanity for now, let's minimize that to something that is comprehensible in the space-time continuum, in the dual expression of our 3D world, so we can understand each other in some way. So one little cell can become a cancer cell and spread. One cell that understands that its life is not its own. It was created for a reason. It serves that reason. Everything that happens to it happens for a reason. Every atom and quark in the universe is in perfect balance with the way things are supposed to be, past, present, and future. In other words, we take the whole concept of destiny and free will to a completely new level. When you try to understand and you think that you have free will, your free will is pre-planned for you to think that you have free will, for you to experience negative emotions, for you to realize in your path these things that I'm explaining to you. And when you understand and you let go of the concept of free will and understand that everything is preordained and you have absolutely no control over it, even though you're an amazing light worker soul that is a heart cell in God's creation or in God's body, think about how much relief you're going to get in your life when you realize these things. Think about, and again, it's not just one thing that you hear in a video somewhere on YouTube or on Instagram. This is a concept that you need to practice and say to yourself over and over and over, I am a heart cell. I am as divine and as great in God's body, and at the same time, I am as small as a grain and meaningless as a grain of sand. Now put these two concepts together, that's the balance point. That's the balance point between everything and nothing and everything and nothing. That is the non-dual expression of who we truly are. Some people do get a glimpse of that in a meditative state. Some of us get glimpses of that when we're taking ayahuasca or medicine plants or anything that is, any MDMA or acid or anything like that. There's glimpses of that, but we can't hold on to them. It's an understanding that we understand for a few minutes or for a few hours, and then we have to let them go. When you practice this, understanding that I'm nothing and everything together, I'm God's expression, nothing is in my hands anyway, everything happens for a reason. It doesn't matter if in my perspective as a human being, I think of it as a negative experience or as a positive experience. It doesn't matter. We have humanized the form of God. In the time that we had wars and enemies, in the biblical times, God was full of anger. And it says that in the Old Testament as well. And these times, we're going towards the light, and God is full of love. God is about heaven. God is about the light. No! God is a concept, a non-dual concept of darkness and light, about bad and good. We are the ones that humanized it in order for us to be able to understand it. So when we are praying, we're praying for good things. But it doesn't matter what we're praying for. We're going to get what a heart cell is supposed to get. We're going to get the story that we're supposed to get. And we already got that. And we keep fighting and resisting reality. We keep resisting our emotions instead of admitting them. We keep forgetting to take responsibility for everything that happens to us, And when we are not accepting responsibility for our fears, then we're actually resisting them and we're causing them to become bigger and bigger in the manifestation of our experience. You see, there is a path of least resistance for us. And that is the path of, you can say, a heart cell. And again, I will say, every one of us is a heart cell that has a different journey. Stop resisting your journey. Start accepting. And I'm not talking about like I found Jesus or anything like that. Start accepting the fact that it was pre-planned by you with you, which you're a part of God, you are a cell in the God's body, and yet you are not the whole thing together. That is the grain of sand. That is the humbleness. That is the acceptance that I am a part of something that is much greater than I am. And I'm here to serve altruistically others and serve egoistically myself in my own experience. Because my experience is the experience of God Himself. And everybody has a reason to be alive. So it's so funny to me when I go to visit people who died in the cemetery, and I say, and I see on their grave, died prematurely, or something like that. And I say, no, nobody dies prematurely. Everybody dies in the way they're supposed to die, in the time that they're supposed to die, and they've experienced the life that they should have experienced. And people tell me, but what about babies? What about children that got cancer or terrible things like that? They serve the purpose. It's either that the soul had a contract with the parent's soul in order to teach that parent's soul something. It's either that we needed to learn as human beings in our society today something about how it is even possible. It's about the karma of the child that is connected to the parent karma until the age of 7. There's so many things that we're not aware of that we think with our limited mental capacity that we should know, but we are just a heart cell in God's body. We do not have the higher perspective, the higher point of view of understanding everything. All we can do is let go of the negative emotions that come with the fact that we think that we have control. Let go of that control that you think you have and live your life. It's really blissful. The heaven that you're looking for is all in your perspective, okay? There's a story about the salespeople, the shoe salespeople that go to Africa. Two of them. One of them comes back from Africa, calls his manager, says, you know something? Nobody wears shoes in Africa. This place is, it's not for us. There's no business for us. The other one calls his manager, says, my God, nobody wears shoes in Africa. We have to come here. This is an opportunity. It's like the story of the two wolves. That's about changing your perspective. Two people, same job, same family, same everything. One is in heaven-like state. One in his hell-like state. One is in abundance. One is in lack. Lack. And I'll summarize this and finish this. When we're talking about, in the beginning of the video, I talked about the I am and they are, he is or she is. When I meditate on I am, I'm getting to a certain level, but there's a level that is much higher than that. I meditate on he is, God is. When I meditate on God is, I become much more humble. I become that grain of sand, and I let go of the expectation of things to occur in the synchronicity, in the sequence that I expect them to occur. And I want you to really feel how full of grace you can be and how much suffering you can leave behind you when you don't have all that overthinking, when you think about how can I do this better, or why did this happen to me, or why am I not in the place that I was expecting myself to be in, or why am I in these failing relationships? All these questions that you have, they've all been solved for you. They're already there. You're thinking about, not being, and when you are, and you concentrate on they are, he is, she is, on the greater plan, you're going to feel much more at ease with your own life. I guarantee it. But you need to practice this. First, it becomes a mental capacity, thought, belief, then a knowingness. And then when it becomes a knowingness, you can live your life in the present all the time, in this sensation of relief all the time. So my friends, once again, I welcome you to come and exercise with me in my workshops. It's a week and a half intense workshops. You can find more of this information on raymaor.com. If you enjoyed this video, like it, share it, help my channel grow, my friends, grow exponentially. Namaste, and I will see you in my next video.